Welcome back, lore seekers, ready to dive back into the grim darkness of 40K.
Always up for a good, grim, dark adventure.
This time, we're taking aim at Steve Parker's Deathwatch. It's a wild ride, trust me.
From what I've heard, it's a wild ride through a meat grinder.
Pretty much, yeah. And to help us navigate this hellscape of bolters and tyranids, we have our resident expert on all things Warhammer 40K.
Well, I wouldn't say expert, but I do enjoy a good bolter barrage as much as the next guy.
So that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Now, before we launch into this, big spoiler warning. If you haven't read Deathwatch yet, maybe hit pause and come back later. All right, with that out of the way, let's meet our protagonist, Librarian Karras. But he's not your average, everyday Space Marine, is he?
Not at all. He's a Death Spectre, which immediately sets him apart.
Death Spectres, right. They're like the spooky neighbors of the Imperium that nobody really wants to talk about.
It's not just that they're secretive. They're bound to this artifact, the Sheriax, a source of immense power, but it comes at a steep price.
Yeah, their chapter master, the Meteor, is slowly turning into stone because of it. It's like a really grim game of hot potato. But instead of losing, you just become a statue.
A very fitting analogy for the 41st millennium, don't you think?
Sadly, yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, duty calls for Karras, as it always does for a Space Marine, and this call leads him to, the Deathwatch.
The Deathwatch. The Emperor's finest, the ultimate xenos hunting force. What more could you ask for?
Well, aside from maybe a nice cup of recaf and a break from all the galaxy-ending threats, not much. But becoming a Deathwatch Marine, that's a whole other level of commitment.
It's a one-way trip to facing down the worst horrors the galaxy has to offer.
And in this book, Parker doesn't shy away from showing us the internal struggle. Leaving his chapter, the weight of his mentor's warnings, the call to something bigger, it all adds up.
It's like being asked to run into a burning building knowing it's full of demons and you might not come back out.
And once he's there, he's got a whole new set of problems. His kill team. We've got Solarian, the Ultramarine. Everyone knows what that means, right?
Let's just say he embodies that quiet ultramarine arrogance perfectly.
Then there's Darian Roth, the Exorcist. Now, there's a chapter shrouded in mystery, even for Space Marines.
Their connection to the warp, their methods, it's all a bit unsettling.
Yeah, and Roth, he embodies that perfectly. Then we've got C4Z, the Raven Guard. He's like the embodiment of shoot first, ask questions never.
A bit trigger-happy, even for a Space Marine.
And to round out this motley crew, we have Maximian Voss, the Imperial Fist. Because every good team needs a stoic giant, right?
The strong, silent type, always ready to lay down a bolter barrage.
So you've got all these big personalities crammed into a Thunderhawk on their way to a planet crawling with tyranids. Not exactly a recipe for a relaxing vacation.
Well, you're not wrong there. The tension is basically its own character from the get-go.
It all comes to a head in the training simulations. Karras and Solarian, they're practically at each other's throats. And then there's Zed. Let's just say he doesn't exactly respect authority, even from an Inquisitor.
Which, knowing Inquisitors is probably a good survival tactic.
Probably. Then comes the mission briefing. A rescue op on the mining planet of Kiaro, which, surprise, is up to its neck in tyranids.
A classic case of everything is trying to kill you in the 41st millennium.
But it's not just a simple extermination mission, is it? They're there to retrieve something, or rather, someone, an inquisitorial agent, codename White Phoenix.
And of course, they can't just tell them who she is or why she's important. Where's the fun in that?
Exactly. It's all very need to know, and apparently they don't need to know.
Classic Imperium. And so they head down into the mines of Kiaro. Now, imagine, if you will.
This is going to be good.
Imagine descending into the bowels of a planet that is already infested with tyranids.
Not exactly a walk in the park, I'm guessing.
You've got this oppressive darkness closing in around you. The air is thick with the stench of death and decay, and every corner you turn could be your last.
Sounds delightful. And I thought my commute was bad. So what do our intrepid heroes do in this charming little death trap?
Well, they decide to whip out a little something special.
Oh, do tell.
A xenos artifact called the hexagraph.
Hold up. Xenos tech. Isn't that a big no-no in the Imperium?
Normally, yes. But desperate times call for desperate measures. And let's be honest.
It's the 41st millennium. When is it not desperate times?
Exactly. But this hexagraph is a doozy. It basically allows Karras to tap into the Tyranid's hive mind.
Hold on a sec. So they're basically letting him stick his head into the Tyranid internet.
In a way, yes. And what he sees...
Let me guess. More teeth.
More teeth, more claws, more of everything. He gets a glimpse of just how deep this infestation goes. It's a truly horrifying sight.
It's enough to make even a space marine want to call for mommy. So what's the plan? They can't exactly just call for backup, can they?
Well, they could, but that would defeat the whole purpose of being stealthy badasses.
That's the point. So what do they do?
Karras makes a decision. He decides to split the team.
Wait, isn't that like Space Marine 101 for how to get yourself killed?
It is, but remember Roth, the exorcist.
The creepy quiet guy.
Yeah, him. Well, it turns out the exorcists have a trick up their power armor sleeve. They are practically invisible to the Tyranids' psychic senses.
So he's basically their secret weapon. They can just sneak past the entire Tyranid horde.
Pretty much.
I mean, I get it, but still. So while they're off playing psychic hide-and-seek, what about the rest of the team? What's their mission?
Hold the line. They've got to buy Karras and Roth time to achieve their objective.
Which is?
Finding White Phoenix.
Oh, right. The mysterious inquisitorial agent they've got to rescue. But still, holding back a tide of Tyranids sounds like a suicide mission to me.
It's all part of the job description when you sign up for the Deathwatch.
I'll stick to reading about it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But all this talk about missions and objectives, it makes you wonder, what's the real story here? What's so special about this White Phoenix?
That's the million-throne-dollar question, isn't it? Parker does a fantastic job of keeping us in the dark.
And we're left to connect the dots. Or, in this case, the bolter shells and Tyranid corpses. Speaking of Tyranids, we haven't even gotten to the big bad itself. The Broodlord.
Ah, yes, the Broodlord. This isn't just your average everyday Tyranid.
Because, you know, those are so common.
Right. Well, the Broodlord, it's a psychic powerhouse. A creature of pure instinct and aggression, capable of directing the entire swarm.
Basically the brain of the operation. And they're about to walk right into its lair.
That they are. And as you can imagine, things get a bit messy.
Okay, you've got to give me something here. What kind of messy are we talking?
Imagine the walls are alive with some sort of pulsating organic thing, and there are chambers where human prisoners are being, well, let's just say it's not good for the complexion.
Okay, yeah, I'm getting a pretty clear picture, and I'm not sure I like it. So they stumble upon all of that, and they still find White Phoenix.
They do, and she is carrying a Tyranid fetus.
Wait, what? Carrying a? You can't just drop a bombshell like that and not explain it.
Don't worry. All will be revealed. But as you can imagine, this throws a bit of a wrench into their plans.
You think? I mean, I'm not a space marine, but even I can see that's not good. So what happens? Do they try to perform an emergency C-section right then and there?
Well, before they can make that decision, they're interrupted.
Oh, no. By who?
By the Magus.
The Magus.
The Broodlord's right hand. Well, I guess you could say man, but that's not really accurate, is it?
Not even in the 41st millennium. So what's the Magus want?
He offers them a deal. Surrender White Phoenix, and they'll be allowed to leave. Of course, it's not exactly a binding agreement.
Knowing the Tyranids, that probably means they'll be the main course at the next Hive Fleet feast.
Right, but it's a testament to their nature that they still refuse.
They're space marines. Surrender is not in their vocabulary. So what happens? How do they get out of this one?
Well, they basically tell this Magus to shove it. Karras, he knows they're in deep, right? So he does the only thing a sensible Deathwatch librarian would do. He goes all in, uses White Phoenix and that Tyranid thing she's carrying as a bargaining chip.
Bold move. Tyranids don't exactly strike me as the negotiating type.
You're right on the money there. Things get really tense. The Broodlord itself shows up.
Oh, fantastic. Just what they needed.
It's like this psychic pressure pressing down on them.
So what happens? Does Karras, challenge it to a psychic staring contest?
Pretty much. Karras is pushing his powers to the limit, holding his own against the Broodlord. It's like a psychic hurricane down there.
Meanwhile, the rest of the kill team is stuck playing Tyranid whack-a-mole.
They're fighting tooth and nail, bolter and chainsword to reach that extraction point. Lictors are on their tail. Genestealers are coming out of the walls. It's a whole mess.
I'd rather face 1,000 angry grots, honestly. At least with grots, you know what you're getting.
And just when they think they've caught a break, they reach the blast doors, and guess what?
Don't tell me. They're locked.
Locked tight.
Of course they are. What else is new in the 41st millennium?
And to make matters worse, their comms are jammed. No contact with the Inquisitor.
Stranded, surrounded by Tyranids, with a psychic hurricane raging overhead. Sounds like a Tuesday for the Deathwatch. So how do they get out of this one?
It gets pretty dicey. But let's just say Chiron, their dreadnought, he earns his keep in this one. Real hero of the hour, that big guy.
Always bet on the walking sarcophagus of fury. But what about White Phoenix?
Right, her. Well, let's just say the Tyranids weren't after her, they were after what she was carrying.
That Tyranid.fetus thing, that's what this was all about.
Seems like it. And remember how I mentioned Zed was observant?
The trigger-happy Raven Guard. What did he do?
He puts two and two together. He finds evidence right there in the mines that those Tyranids didn't just stumble onto Kiaro by accident.
Get out! You're telling me someone lured them there. But who would do that, and why?
Those are the questions, aren't they? It points to something much bigger at play, some deeper conspiracy. Maybe someone wanted White Phoenix and that thing she was carrying to fall into the Tyranids' claws. Maybe they wanted Kiaro gone. Whatever the reason, as they're extracting, that chilling word echoes. Exterminatus.
So that's it then. Planet gets purged, along with any answers they might have found. Grim.
It's a grim reminder, isn't it? In the 41st millennium, sometimes there are no good choices, only the least bad ones.
And sometimes, even the heroes don't get a happy ending. Well, folks, there you have it. Deathwatch by Steve Parker. An amazing story full of twists and turns that really showcases just how grimdark the 41st millennium can be.
And it makes you think twice about what it really means to be the good guys.
For sure. But hey, that's Warhammer 40K for you. So until next time, lore seekers, stay vigilant, stay armed, and may the Emperor light your way.